everybody thinks that if I sell more, I make more.
Mhm.
And I learned that lesson early on in life. I actually had one of the companies I had was a construction company. And, my first year in business, we were in business 10 months and we did about $800,000 in revenue.
Mhm.
And we made about $300,000 net profit. And with that, it was myself and my partner, not really knowing what we were doing. We knew understood business, but we kind of learned as we earned, as we said. Right.
Yeah.
Well, being a business mind and structure and design, I said, listen, like, we got to increase our business. So I did year over year over year. I got to the point where I call it greed because it's not knowing the value. Is we got to a point we were doing about $5 million in top line revenue. We had transitioned from being just residential into small commercial and started getting into some larger projects. And at the end of the year, after $5.1 million in top line revenue, the company made $400,000.
Mm.
Well, I said, there's a problem there. And the problem is that we got focused on the top line revenue, but I lost and didn't have time to focus on the bottom line revenue. And it's not a charity. So I wanted to understand where I went wrong. So I used my own personal experience to help me understand that there's ways to kind of do things better. So I really adapted and live by the phrase of working smarter, not harder. Not that I have a problem with hard work. I have a great work ethic from that design, and I think that's always important for anybody. But scaling, everybody looks at it in a different perspective.
Mm.
And what I want people to really understand is that it's about what you're making today, but it's not what you make, it's what you keep. That's the other part of the equation. Because a lot of times, as you start to scale up and you start bringing in additional people, now you have more employees. Every time you bring on an additional employee, you bring on a different liability because you
Yep.
have employee expenses, you have insurances, you have liability. That's the other thing that comes with the equation. And every time you bring on a new person, you also inherit their problem. So I like to think of like being a glorified babysitter until you get to a point where you're scaled to where you're a corporation and
Yep.
that you maybe have some officers or some high level managers in place to take care of the people below. But anybody starting a business has to basically walk through the field in order to get to the other side. And that's really where it comes down to. And there's a lot of people in America, especially that we focus with, that are small businesses. And I say small business could be anywhere from $250,000 a year in revenue to $100 million in revenue. That could be a small business based on the size. So they still will mostly go through the transition points. And I find a lot of businesses that fall in that $2 to $10 million range that really have nobody that helps them. They
Mm.
have their CPA, of course, that they may have started the business with. They have their attorney who may have helped them incorporate or LLC or whatever. And they don't know the difference. They don't know what questions to ask. And if you don't know the question to ask, how are you supposed to know the difference?
Yeah.
And that is really what I find to be one of the biggest problems, in all honesty, Joe, is that most people really don't know the questions to ask because they have a business. They may be good at what they do. And it's crazy. I mean, I was just with a business owner this past week, and I sat down with him, and we went through a bunch of different conversation points. And his business is doing about $6.5 million in top line revenue. He's doing well. He's right around 20% margin, so he's doing well with the business. But what happens is he works in the field because he's a technical service,
Yeah.
but then he has to spend another 40 hours running the business. So what is that causing for him? It's causing angst inside the family because his wife never sees him. His wife is actually part of some of the business. So we've done these particular parts of the business and started going through an overview with him and found out that when I asked him, well, what is it that you want?
Mm.
He's like, I just want to do what I enjoy doing. I hate this part of the business. So I said, what do you really want to do? He said, listen, I would like to do this. And he's 52 years old. I'd like to do this for another 2, 3 years and then just be able to go hunt and fish because that's what I would really like to do because I haven't been able to do it. I said, okay, so if I could show you how to do that, is that something that would make sense? He said, well, absolutely. Well, the conversation now changed to where I could sit there and show him what he wants to do in the business and what his strength and his excitement is. He's recruited 40 people into the company that he enjoys the culture. And he is in a situation where he's a commodity in a sense in his industry.
Yeah.
and people are interested in what he has to offer. So I said, listen, let me help you understand an exit strategy. Let me help paint a picture for what that looks like. And one of the biggest fallacies, in my opinion, Joey, is that when people start in business, it's kind of funny. In order to go get financing or backing to open up your business, you need a business plan.
Yeah.
Well, just like a book has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
Most people don't plan for the
Think about
end
the end.
inside their business. They
Mm.
don't plan for an exit strategy. Okay. And the exit strategy may be in business, maybe because you're selling your business, you're closing the business down, or life happens and
Yeah.
maybe you get sick or you die. Okay. Now, those are all important points that you need to have a conversation with people. And you know what? I haven't met a CPA yet who asks those questions to their client. And unless I'm talking to an estate attorney, they don't ask that question either.
Mm.
Because the one thing you'll learn by most attorneys out there is attorneys don't ask questions unless it's pertaining to what you asked them to start with. They're
Yeah.
never going to offer any additional information above and beyond that. And that's a shame. It really is. So what I try to do is I try to be a value add when I'm talking to a client because like them, I speak from personal experience. I may not know their specific business, but I know business and I know life. And you need to understand key points. And the first one that I always focus on in this business and what I've been doing is legacy. And legacy isn't necessarily what happens after you're gone. Legacy is what you create while you're alive that
Yeah.
people will remember. And that
Mm.
to me is the way to measure your success is the legacy that you create by the family and whoever else that you leave in your passing.